Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment of the weekend show. We'll be discussing the mandatory NIN registration. Despite criticisms from many Nigerians and the 2 weeks ultimatum for the registration and linking of NIM to mobile numbers, the federal government has insisted on the deadline. The Director General of the National Identity Management Commission, Aliyu Abubakar, in an interview with Premium Times on Friday, said there was no extension for the announced deadline. Joining us today to discuss this and its impact on the larger populace, we have
Okai, who is a social commentator and political analyst. Welcome back to the Weekend Show, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
So Austin, let's just delve right into it. What is your opinion and your perspective on this issue?
Yeah, the national identity number, or the national ID number, as I like to call it, is a noble idea, and that we all must encourage it. As a citizens of a country, having your own number is a good one that we must. But the deadline handed down to Nigerians by the Minister of Digital Technologies, as you all know, which is widely criticized by all, and the National Assembly, House of Representatives, has already deliberated on it, and they have asked the minister to extend. So whatever the chairman or the DG, National Identity Management Commission, may like to say, he has no option than to extend it, because the representative of the people, the Federal House of Rep, has already deliberated on it. And coupled with the timing of this, as I'm talking to you, so many people, there is a massive movement. Despite insecurity challenge, people are going, it's a festive period, people are going home for Christmas celebration, some are going for relative wedding, some are going for friends or colleagues, marriage and co. You can't ask them to suspend it for this purpose, because already the date has been fixed already. So definitely, as a government that will listen to the people, that's supposed to listen to people, they don't have any other option than to extend it, considering the fact that it is a necessary policy that we all must abide by. But imposing it and forcing people to ensure this is done currently is what we cannot achieve. And whoever tell you we can get it done within 2 weeks is waste of time. It's not possible.
So Austin, I think it's quite interesting, because the way I found out about this, it was a week ago. A friend of mine wanted to get a SIM card, and so we strolled into a 9Mobile office thinking you could just get it. And they were like, oh, our systems are down and you can't register or buy SIM cards. And they said NCC instructed. And then I got a news letter about 5 hours later saying this was what it was. Now the communication, and this is interesting that it's coming from the Ministry of Communications, where they had this decision, they rolled it out. They stopped registration and sale of SIM card before the press release was even out. And so this is the festive period, like you rightly said. A lot of people are coming into the country. We are saying we want investors in. So as a foreigner or a Nigerian who returns into the country, you can't even buy a SIM card or register a SIM card because of this same audit. Now, for security reasons, one of the reasons, but what's your take on the system where we hear about stuff being banned or regulated and it takes effect even before the people get to know about it or have to plan for it? What's your take on the mode of communication when such things happen in this country?
Yeah, it is poorly communicated, and the government took decision before announcing it. It is wrong. But even on the other hand, the government can do anything in the name of national security. I've said it before on this very program. In the name of national security, the government can adopt any policy at any time for the interest of the nation. And on the other, concerning the citizens coming into the country, well, they don't have any option than to abide by the existing rules and regulations. But all these things is happening because we have a poor data capturing and co. Like your friend that you say, at the time of buying a SIM card, your data is being captured, you submit a verifiable ID card, your fingerprint is captured, and if you are coming back to do welcome again, instead of you to walk into the national or into the center of the end of this network to have your SIM card retrieved, you'll be asked to go for one thing or the other again. I think with this national ID card, I believe that will come to an end. But for the sake of national security, there is nothing citizens cannot let go for our security's sake. But the minister and the current government must listen to what Nigerians are crying out for.
Also, just to follow up on that, and you said with national security, so I get your concerns. However, the Nigerian land borders were shut down for 15 months. And the president just last week in an interview with NTA said that they realized that despite border closure, arms and ammunition was still being smuggled into the country. And so that's, in my opinion, is him admitting that that failed.
Yeah, of course.
Now, with this, and you're saying national security, what happens to striking a balance where you can deal with national security without bringing untold hardship to the people, especially in a pandemic where it requires people actually going out to go register for NIN if they don't already have it?
Yeah, because I think some of this network has already rolled out the way you can do it online.
Just for perspective, Austin, only about less than 50 million Nigerians have registered for the NIN.
It's not
to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
And so what the telcos are doing are for those who have already registered to link their number to their SIM cards. If there are over 120 million registered phone numbers in Nigeria, so let's say about 30 million people have to go register in 2 weeks. How is that possible?
It's not possible. That's why I say it's not achievable. Most of these things are only possible in center, in the FCT here, or somewhere like Lagos and Port Harcourt. You go to Abosho now, where I come from, is there center? How many people have national identity card number? How many of them have even seen it face to face?
Have you seen yours?
Yes. I registered after I think about 7 years before I got it last year. Me dwelling in this Abuja. So you go to a place like so many places, rural dwellers, and they are all having they have access to mobile phone. They use phones, but many of them don't even have it. So saying that it's achievable within 2 weeks is a waste of time. And the government has to put in places the strategies to get it done within the period that will be reasonable, which may even take up to a year plus. Do we have resources for this? Is there budget for new center we are creating for the registration of national identity card? How are we going to fund it? We are always good in policy formulation or pronouncing policy without taking cognizance how to implement it. It's not about formulating policy, for God's sake. It's about the measure being put in place to implement it. Therefore, it is a noble idea, just as I said. Nigerians of all walks of life must abide by this sacrifice. And at the same time, a cooperation from the government is also needed by extending the time, having deliberated by the National Assembly, and it is wrong for the DG of National Identity Management to grant an interview and say that it's achievable. How is it done? Is it a rocket science? It's not possible. We should be sincere to ourselves when it comes to the security of the country. We must. And if you say that it's about the kidnappers no longer even use any phone. They use the phone of their victims. That is what they do. God forbid if anyone is kidnapped, it's your own phone that they will use. So thinking that is for the tracking sake, I don't think. But I think it will help us in the data of its citizens or in securing our data and come up with exact population, because every day it can also help the census, because every day we keep guessing 150 million, 200 million. We don't even know exact population, exact number of citizens we have in this country.
That leads me to my follow-up question. Good. What are the benefits of a national identity number? Because we have the permanent voters cards, we have our passports, we have other means of identification. Yes. Isn't it possible to create a centralized system that collates this data into one, body, where you don't need to now register for NIN, tomorrow you're registering for PVC, tomorrow so what are the benefits of NIN? I think
it's, as a growing economy, we are heading there. Now, you have your own national ID, which only belongs to you. I mean, the national ID, the number, not the ID card itself. As a citizen of Nigeria, you are with so number. It's one of the benefits of it. Either you are with it or you are not. I pray we grow to that level where you can walk it into a bank, your national number, you can, if you have it like a mobile number, you give to the banker, this is your profile can come up, or you walk into MTN or a Tislat that I want to, Okai, I lost my phones, I want to welcome my SIM card back, and with the national ID card, enter into the system and the profile come up. That is where we're supposed to, I think that is where we are heading into. We must endure with the system, and the operators of the nation must also be sincere. not coming up with a policy for budgetary purpose. Maybe somebody want to push one particular money to a particular assignment, like CCTV in those days that did not have it way, and all those things. So it will be of national benefit as a citizens of Nigeria, anywhere you stand in the world, to be able to mention your own identity number that is solely only for you. It helps in data management. And at the same time, why it has advantage, it also has its own disadvantage. Data security management also matters most. Because along the line, I think BVN also will join into this from where we are.
Because we have the BVN already. So why, I'm still trying to understand the significance of differentiating between NIN and BVN, because we have the personalized number. They told us we no longer can access our bank account until we have our BVN, you know. So I'm still trying to understand the benefits and how it trickles down, you know. And as you said, for the people in the rural areas, we're just speaking grammar here in the studio. They're like, NIN, what is that? Like the message is in, you know, being translated down to that grassroots level. So what would you advise that the government does differently? How can they go about this in a more systemic, holistic way that carries everybody along?
Good. The National Orientation Agency, if it's still functioning, needs to be engaged in terms of rural engagement and orientation and education. Why ordinary Nigerian, an average Nigerian, whose own concentration is how to have safety to go to farm and come back from farm to his own house, what will he do with national ID card? He has to be informed. The implication of have it and the advantage of have it, and educating them is another assignment alone on the nation. That's why I say the National Orientation Agency, if we still have, has to wake up and be engaged. Then come in the issue of budget. Do we have budget for it? Is there any budgetary provision for it? These are the questions, and that's why we say that 2 weeks is not achievable. It is not. And on the issue of BVN and the NIN, they are two different things entirely. Because yes, we have people that off the bank. I have a sister who does not have a bank account, but her son has. Do you understand what I'm saying? He has no, a man or a woman who has no bank account has nothing to do with BVN. But that you are a citizen, you must have a national identity number. These are two different things.
Austin, while I'm still concerned about how much of a priority this is right here and now, a couple of years ago, and rightly so, they started SIM registration in Nigeria. And this included biometric registrations. And so this was also one of the reasons why the likes of MTN got fined at some point in time. And so if you go to buy a SIM card, like you said, you need an ID which you bring. That's one form of identification. Two, they capture your biometrics. And so if there should be any up-to-date database, it should be that of the telcos where it's already registered. And so what you're asking for is at least 3 biometric processes to ensure you're in Nigeria. Because one, you said an ID card which is recognizable, which is either your voter's card or your license or your passport. It already has biometrics. 2, they are now coming to register with the telcos, taking biometric data. And 3, you're now asking for NIN. I don't understand, is this a priority right now for the people? And with your solution, you spoke about how the government should help with National Orientation Agency, but what about the people in the rural area? How would you advise them to deal with this right here and now with the 2 weeks deadline in a pandemic? So how can we help the people in the rural area right now?
It's also even against our health policy of distancing ourselves from one another, and now that we are facing with the second wave of coronavirus. I don't know if you get it now.
Yes, we do.
Secondly, and I think the federal government, just as I said earlier, must be sincere. Saying we are going with these 2 weeks is not achievable. But the local government administration can also be involved in this policy, where everybody can go back to their rural area. Like we have a councillor representing each ward. We have a supervising councillor representing each ward. Some places were elected, some were not elected. We can as well engage them, where we can engage to engage in a community orientation or community assignment, where it's your responsibility to engage your constituent on the need for them to come out and get it done. But getting these people out to go and queue for registration is not even their priority, considering what we are facing now. I don't know you get it now. So these approaches has to be relooked into. While we encourage those who have the opportunity to continue, those who don't have to wait. And the government must put in place the mechanism to ensure that those that don't have get it. It's very, very important. And it's very, very, very important. We must give it all the necessary attention that is required, both from the citizens and from the government. And at the same time, just as you say, it's the responsibility of we have a government, ab initio, even before now, that prefer to suffer the citizens instead of the service operators. I don't know you get it now. Look at the STV, for example. The same thing to telecom. Are we having any regulatory that is monitoring their charges? Do we have a supervisory agency functioning today that ensure that the citizens are not being shortchanged by the capitalists who are operating all this? So that comes, having submitted the national ID card before, at the place of welcoming him back, is it not supposed to be part of your data on the system of the telecommunication operators? Do you need to go back there? This shows that all those things, both the court affidavits, all those things we are submitting is just a mere fallacy. It's not being implemented. And hence, the saboteur always break into it. And that is why you see some people going around with already pre-registered SIM card, still existing, still functioning. At times, some people will call you, put it on a true caller, the name will appear, will be like a goat, or the name will appear. They are still saboteur. It's inside the system. Hence, the spirit of patriotism and the national interest must be encouraged. Not this overnight approach we are. And that is why I say, at this point or in our history, the national orientation must wake up. Why are you Nigerian? What are your responsibilities to your country? What are your civic responsibility? Okay, what is the government responsibility to citizens? Are we doing that? Is the government living up to her own responsibility? Are citizens living up to their own responsibility? Hence, we need self-assessment, self-auditing of our own responsibility as a citizens. Are we carrying out our duty? Are we functioning where we are supposed to? Do Nigerians relate with Nigeria as a country the way Ghanaians relate with Ghana as a country? Do we have a national interest? Are we protecting the interests of Niger Republic, the interests of the Chad Republic or Cameroon against our own country? These are the things we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah, also, before we digress too far, I think you've been able to deduce quite a number of benefits of having NIN. So we do appreciate you and we do thank you for that. One thing you mentioned that I thought was very pertinent was the fact that this can also be used for our census.
Yes.
I had a little giggle when you said today we say we're 150, tomorrow we're 198, next tomorrow we're 200, we're 209. You know, and I believe that the Christmas holiday, when people are returning back to their families or, you know, gathered together, is actually a perfect time to conduct an exercise like this. What are the benefits, do you believe, would be able to derive from carrying out this activity towards this holiday season, and how can it impact on the 2023 general elections moving forward?
Yeah, you can't, it's very, very important, but I don't think that is achievable this year. Maybe even in the Bible days, I remember our Lord Jesus Christ was born during the times of when Caesar Augustus called on everybody to come back home. So it's a perfect season where everybody returns home. And it's a perfect in a sense that because we live a country where state of origins or your tribe has more of your of priority than being a Nigerian. I don't know you get it now. And if you have than being a Nigerian. So I think it is very important we encourage this so that we can have an achievable or a very, very verifiable census or data for the country, because it will help us in our election planning. It will help us in coming up with exact data or figures of both employed and unemployed Nigerians. It will help us with the number of people that need a particular development in a particular place. Where country is planned, even there are some facilities that cannot meet up or that need to be expanded because of the number of people that passes that particular road, like bridges or like provide provisions of drinkable water. There are lines, there are pipe that you can lay that cannot service a particular number. All these things are not achievable if you don't have a verifiable data. With the national identity card, if allowed to function the way it's supposed to be, as you are here, you have only one, and nobody can. If you are 104, none, either an Igala man, an Igala man, or a Nupe man, or somebody from Borno State, or a Fulani man, Hausa man, or an Yoruba should not have that. Again, not that you have 101 today in Kogi. You go to Benue State, another 101 is there. You go to Kwara State, another 101 is there. All those things, if it's not properly planned, it will still be a mere exercise. So
the reason I asked you about the correlation to the elections is because obviously Nigeria suffers from an election rigging problem. You know, our votes don't count the way they should.
Exactly.
So with this national identification number, do you believe that we can conduct more transparent and credible elections if this is done properly and implemented?
Yeah, it will help. It will help in terms of national election. I don't know you get it now. And if it were to go into full electronic voting, where the national ID number can be linked with our PVC, I don't know you get it now. Once you vote in Katsina, you used to vote in Katsina, you can't vote anywhere else apart from Katsina, or except you do transfer, which is as they are doing now. But there we have places, we have some voting polling unit where the number of 50 people are registered there, but that same polling unit can bring out 300 votes. I don't know you get it now in an election, and they will tell you the card reader or is not known by law. So for it to be of assistance, national identity card, we must go into full electronic or partially electronic reform, where digital activities are to be recognized by our elector or by the operators of Independent National Electoral Commission and Judiciary.
Thank you, Austin. We have Enenche joining us virtually. Enenche, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'll just get straight to it. We're discussing the deadline to link your national identity number to your SIM cards. What's your take on it, and how do you feel? What's your take on it? And if you don't feel this is the way to go, what are your suggested solutions or preferable solutions?
Well, as a Nigerian, and in as much as the national identification number, linking it with SIM card is a welcome development as far as the national security is concerned. I think the directive issued by government is not achievable, and to me it's like a slap on the sensibility of the generality of the larger section of Nigeria. Because you are talking about COVID-19, you are discouraging people from traveling for Christmas, for Salah, discouraging people from gathering, and I am thinking of this kind of directive. Imagine the mob action that will happen at the registration centers. Because if you check the proportions of Nigeria who have registered for this NIN, I don't think it's up to like half of the population that they are expecting, the general population they are expecting to register. So we are talking about COVID-19. I am bringing this kind of directive that is not even achievable. Within 2 weeks, you can't achieve that. What about Nigerians abroad that have their SIM there? Will they come back? What they have in place for Nigerians abroad who are running their SIM card? Yes. Just recently here, my mechanic was kidnapped along somewhere along Edo Delta axis. And for the first time, I came in contact with kidnappers because they were calling, using the guy's phone to call people, calling like that. And when I tried to report to the police, we discovered that even the police were overwhelmed. They had over 15 kidnap cases at that point. They were even trying to identify or attend to. So you see, when this national identification number name comes into play, it will cut down crime. You will know that. And then it's good for national security. But there are loopholes in the system. They are just coming up 2 weeks, want to everything. It can't happen. We know that it can't happen. Are there loopholes in the system? Do they have any template that if someone dies, a Nigerian dies today, will the name goes off, or somebody can just hijack the name and be using it to be perpetrating crime and think, oh, you will know the person will catch him, and you can't get the person. These are questions we should be asking. Registration, linking it with SIM card is healthy for national security, no doubt about that. And this thing is a national security asset. It must be guarded jealously. And as for to my best of my understanding, NIMC has the statutory responsibility of doing the registration. I know that they are bringing some people into the queue to assist or do one or two things to enhance smooth registration. But what about people in the rural areas? What about Nigerians? I don't see that robust sensitization about to Nigerians about this whole thing. They just go with directive like a law. Okay, this is what we are doing. Don't do that. It's national security. The citizens must be carried along. You must sensitize them, educate them, tell them the importance of this thing. So they will now run with it. You don't sit down there and just issue something as this. So if you ask me my own sincere mind, because I say the way it is, I think maybe government is just bringing this same team now, just like a diversional, just to divert the citizens' attention. I don't know, maybe they want to do something, just want to divert attention. I don't know. If you ask me, I'll just say that's just it. Because coming out to tell us 2 weeks to do this, even the person that is saying it knows it's not achievable. So I think this is just my view.
Enenche, thank you so much, Enenche. I think that is an adequate summation of what we've been discussing for the past half hour on this segment of the weekend show. Thank you so much for your time. Any final words, Austin, before we close?
Yeah, the federal government must listen to the plight of the people. As 2 weeks ultimatum handed down to us is not achievable. They should reapproach it, while those who have the opportunity of getting it done should give it a trial or should embrace it with what it takes, and is to our own advantage and for the safety of our country. Thank you.
Austin, Okai, Enenche, thank you so much for your time. I do agree that we need to stop making fiat policies and truly analyze it and its impact on every Nigerian before we do come out and speak of such policies. We need to be able to say, okay, these are the rollout measures that we're going to take in implementation, and how feasible is it? You know, not just sitting down in your office in Abuja and making policies for 209 million people and not thinking about how it's going to affect them. So that's a very good point that you raised. Do follow us on social media. The conversation never ends on your television screens. We always take it to our social media at Weekend Show NG on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can follow our personal handles at
Andy Madaki on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And at Osasu Igbinedion on the same handles. Visit our website www.tostvnetwork.com to watch the full 2 hours recap of today's episode and our former episodes as well. Compliments of the season. Stay safe. We love you, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, God bless you.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Austin. Are you traveling?